Well, I bet you've never heard of Haneen Zreika or Fawad Ahmed. I think you probably didn't hear much about the furore over Sonny Bill Williams and the BNZ, did you? But I bet you've heard of Israel Folau, Margaret Court, and now Manly. They've got similar principles involved in these names and issues, but the media have treated them very differently. Guess why? So back in January, you might remember my first episode of McBLOG for this year, where I showed that the media were very kind to Greater Western Sydney Giants player Haneen Zreika in the AFL Women's League. The league's first Muslim player said she wouldn't play in an LGBT pride match after deciding she couldn't wear the pride jumper because it didn't align with her religious beliefs. The media report said, quote, Greater Western Sydney is understood to be fully committed to the pride match and its LGBT players, but is also supporting Zreika in her decision not to play or wear the jumper. End quote. How lovely. How respectful. Freedom of religious belief. Respect to Zreika also for living according to her principles and Muslim faith. Not a peep from politicians calling her views disgraceful or hurtful or calling her a bigot. No interview from Labour MP Grant Robertson. And then there was Sonny Bill Williams, and he was allowed to continue covering up a sponsor's logo on his Auckland Blues shirt after the New Zealand Rugby Union agreed to the All Blacks player's request based on his religious beliefs. According to lovely media reports, Williams, a devout Muslim, taped up his collar to hide Bank of New Zealand logos as Islamic faith forbids financial institutions charging interest and fees on loans. Now, the move raised the possibility of disciplinary action, but the NZRU accommodated Williams' request after he lodged a conscientious objection. The Blues supported his stance. Superb. And I think the media supported his stance as well. And then there was Fawad Ahmed, who played cricket. And Cricket Australia agreed to allow him not to wear the logo of a beer sponsor on his playing shirt due to his Muslim faith. Religious freedom. Free to believe. Awesome, the way it should be. And the media didn't talk about it much at all. That's probably why you didn't hear about it. On the other hand, the media weren't kind to this person, Margaret Court, for similar views. One of Australia's greatest women's players, she was slammed for her views of same-sex marriage and gender dysphoria, and there were protests to get her name removed from a tennis court, despite her being one of women's greatest tennis players. Although in this day and age, what is a woman? But you'll see there that she was referred to as, disgraceful, hurtful, and, her views should not be honoured. So, certainly wasn't given the time of day by the media or the politicians. And of course, not that one, this one, the media weren't kind to Israel Folau, though, for similar views. And I probably don't need to remind you about that particular case. And now there's the 7 Manly players, although there are suggestions that other players on the squad, including some rookies, are also making the same stand. You haven't heard much about Haneen Zreika or Fawad Ahmed. Oh, let me just show you also one of the articles in the Herald today entitled Manly Player Revolt More Like a Revolting Display of Man. Yes, who is that? That is Darcy Waldegrave from News Talk ZB, and this is printed in the New Zealand Herald. So they are slamming it. But see, notice you haven't heard of Haneen Zreika or Fawad Ahmed, but you've heard a lot about Israel Folau and now the Manly players. Very derogatory coverage, but similar convictions, similar stand based on religious belief. But Court and Folau and most of the Manly boys are Christian. Massive media storm. Zreika and Ahmed are Muslim. Moving on, we're not pleased, but nothing to see here. And that says everything about what the real target is. What's really going on here? Well, it's what they call the gospel of diversity, inclusion, and equality. And it fails before it begins because contrary to its claim of diversity, inclusion, and equality, the diverse opinion that there are biblical beliefs around sexuality, male and female, and marriage must be shut down. You must not hold those views. And this new sexual and gender identity is so fragile, it must be reinforced by the state. It must be rammed down by the media, and it must be mandated by woke businesses. You know what? All I can simply say to the 7 manly men is thank you for your stand. You have stiffened the spines of others, and we are standing with you.